On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's a retired U.S. Navy SEAL lieutenant. He's a top sought-after motivational speaker and best-selling author of a plethora of unbelievable books, such as The Trident, Overcome, and Point Man Planner. He was nearly killed in Iraq and has overcome a victim mindset, failure, and crisis, as he likes to say, by getting off the X. He's conquered adversity head on and is the leadership coach, teaching you how to handle life's ambushes. He's just an overall juggernaut in all facets of life and a phenomenal husband and father. Please welcome the resilient, tenacious, courageous, and fearless Jason Redman. How you doing, Jason?
Craig, that was awesome, man. I love that description. Juggernaut. You're like, I'm going to run through this computer.
I'm laughing because, number one, I love you, but we were talking before we went on air. We could have gone 2 hours. We had to hit record, but I always love to see the guest reaction after the intro because they take such pride in that. But ultimately, it's your life, brother. You wrote it. I just said it.
No, man, thank you. And I'm just blessed. And I love telling people, I think sometimes people listen to all that and they're like, oh my God, I could never do what that guy's done. But the reality is, man, I'm human just like you. I have had setbacks. I've had failures. I've had problems. My ability to become a SEAL was really more about I can endure a lot of discomfort. And that's really, I think, what helps make a SEAL. And that really is ultimately what dictates your ability to quit or not quit. How much pain and discomfort can you endure over a period of time? And the reality is in this life, that's like the secret, man. That's the secret to resiliency, whether it's in business, whether it's physically, whether it's in a workout. How much pain and discomfort can you endure to get better or to achieve a goal?
Yeah, because spoiler alert for the audience listening, like ambushes or setbacks or adversity is a part of life for anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the core of what I teach. And, it was kind of an epiphany moment. I spent the majority of my adult life, from the age of 18 to, into my 30s, learning how to place the enemy into a specific location at a specific time and either capture or kill them. And oftentimes, if it came to a kill them type mission, it was how much overwhelming firepower and pressure could we put on this situation? Whether it was through multiple legs of an ambush, whether it was through a very dynamic target takedown, or whether it was even bringing airstrikes in on top of them. And what I learned when I got on the receiving end of that, I was involved in a devastating enemy ambush, a very well executed Al-Qaeda ambush, where myself and my teammates got shot up. And it is a overwhelming feeling to be in that situation, and that for us, we were on the receiving end of 2 PKM machine guns, multiple shooters, and it all came down to the one thing that I've been taught my entire career. The point of attack, the point of a crisis, the point of an ambush, we call that the X, and you got to get off the X. And thankfully, my teammates and the help of the Air Force, we were able to fight back and get off that X. And that was just that epiphany moment. I realized everybody in life gets on the X. Whether, it may not be a gunfight ambush. Thankfully, most people have not had to endure that. But all of us in life, whether it's business, whether it's personally, whether you're told of a health crisis, you get put on the X. And learning how to get off the X as quickly as possible is really, in my opinion, the key to success.
Yeah. First of all, beautifully said, brother. And I want to acknowledge you for a moment because you said, thankfully, most people don't have to deal with actually being in combat. And I want to thank you on behalf of the whole audience for your service. But it's so true. Like once the audience or once anybody realizes that being on the X, right, or life's adversity, challenges, obstacles, it's inevitable. So what we have a choice to dictate our mindset and attitude towards that, right? So when adversity comes, it doesn't have to cripple us, right? It's not in the way, it's on the way, so to speak. And it's just a part of life. And once you understand that, you can almost look forward to challenges and obstacles because there'll be some sort of growth on the other side and so forth. And just like you said, like you could use it in any analogy, business, coming out of a divorce, war, whatever the case may be. It's all a metaphor for just life's adversity, right?
That's right. And that's what I call the overcome mindset. I mean, it is preparing yourself that no matter how great you plan, things can go wrong. I mean, you could have the greatest plan in the world, and sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes bad things happen to great plans. Warren Buffett himself could design a business plan and say, hey, this is the greatest plan in business ever. Everybody's going to make $1 trillion. And all of a sudden, something unexpected comes along, something that you just cannot
Yep.
predict, because guess what? That's life. And all of a sudden it falls apart. And having an overcome mindset says, well, I can't predict everything. I can hope for the best, but I plan for the worst. And you think about that and you prepare. And then when bad things happen, you're not totally caught off guard. You're like, well, this sucks and I'm going to overcome it, because that's what I do.
That's it. I absolutely love this. And we're going to jump around a little bit. I want to hit on all these topics that you teach about, because I think that's so valuable for the audience. But I always like to have a little fun and get a little weird with the guests in the beginning of the show. I wanted to ask you personally, what's your superpower, Jason?
My superpower is I'm just relentless, man. There are a lot of people out there that may not believe in me. And it's kind of been the story of my life, man. I mean, I told people I was going to become a SEAL. Hell, we'll go back before that. I said I was going to play football, and I was like the 95-pound weakling, and everybody told me I shouldn't play football, including my dad. And I went out and I played football. Now, I wasn't the greatest player. I got my ass kicked a lot, but I played. I said I was going to be a SEAL, and everybody told me I couldn't do that. I mean, just so many things in my life. I've had instances, and it continues in business and everywhere, where people say, well, I don't think you can do that, or you're not going to do that. And I just kind of laugh. I'm like, okay, no problem, man. Because the difference is, you may not believe in me, but I relentlessly believe in myself.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, my greatest superpower.
Jason, isn't that everything in life, brother? Self-belief.
Yes. And so many people don't. So many people allow that little voice inside. And guys, that's being on the X too. I tell people that a micro ambush places you on the X, and a micro ambush isn't necessarily, usually a micro ambush isn't a physical ambush. It's not, one of the big ones I talk about. It's the ambush of the mind. But oftentimes it's the most insidious. It's that little voice inside your head that tells you you're not good enough. You're never going to do it because you're a woman. You're never going to do it because you're gay or straight, or you're never going to do it because you're black or white, or you're never going to do it because you're this religion or that, whatever it is. Those are micro ambushes. And if you can learn to believe in yourself, you'll get off that X every time, because it doesn't matter what others say. Believe in yourself, drive forward, and start watching the success grow.
Absolutely. This is just gripping. And also on the flip side, like anybody that wants to do anything out there, great. If you lack self-belief, you can only get so far.
Yeah, man. I mean, the secret greatness, lies within all of us, but it's on you. At the end of the day, it's on you. You have to get off that X. You have to create that business. You have to move weight to get in shape. You have to, watch your nutrition. You have to, build and close deals. It's you. I mean, everybody in this day and age wants to point fingers at everybody else, and it's great to get help from everybody else. But at the end of the day, you drive your success. Greatness starts with this person.
Yeah, and that might scare some people, but the right people, that should excite you, because that means the ball's in your court. You don't have to rely upon other people for success or for happiness. It's an inside job, and it starts with us. I love that you hammered that home.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm living proof of it.
Yes, you are. With all the things that you got going on now, and all the different chapters and seasons of your life right now, today, Jason, what makes you feel most alive?
Oh, that's a great question, man. I am blessed to be alive. I think every day I'm just grateful to be alive. Having come so close to death gives you a unique perspective on this life. And that's why, I mean, you'll see on my shirt, it says no bad days.
Bang.
And I wake up so often, and don't get me wrong, I tell people, I want to erase this from most people's vocabulary. I want you to never say, I had a bad day, unless it meets 4 criteria. You have physical damage, mental damage, emotional damage, or deep financial damage. those four things add up to become major life ambushes. This is where you are mired on the X. You are in a major attack in your life in some capacity. And if those things have happened, you're allowed to say, I'm having a bad day. But if it doesn't meet that criteria, for most people, when bad things happen, it's merely a schedule disruption. It may disrupt our schedule for hours, days, weeks, could even be a couple of months. But no matter what, you will get back on track. As opposed to major life ambushes, you'll carry those scars for the rest of your life. You will always feel them. So for me, I'm just thankful, man. When the doctors put me back together, this is an acrylic model of my skull.
Wow.
You can see it on the back of my shirt, our No Bad Days line of clothing. But
and real quick, where can the audience grab that shirt?
Yeah, go to jasonredman.com and click on our store, and we've got a whole line of
that's awesome.
Of the No Bad Days and the skull products. People love them. And it just reminds you that, you know, when you think your day is bad, when you think there are problems, the reality is you're still here, man. You're still alive. When I look at that skull, it makes me say, bro, you're still alive. Like, let's go. Whatever problem we're dealing with, there's a solution. It may not be right here in front of you. You may have to swim through that lake of fire to get to the other side and figure it out. But guess what? You have that opportunity. I got buddies who are no longer here, man. Their names are etched on a granite wall. And I often think about that. Like, my name should be on that wall too. Like, I am a walking miracle, man. I'm so blessed to still be here. So for me, I just think about, I need to live every day to the most, man. I'm not going to complain about problems. I'm not going to say, oh, I had a bad day. You know, I'm going to drive forward and say, man, my buddies, they would give anything to still be here. They would give anything to have your worst day and still be alive.
Yeah, this is awesome and just riveting, because maybe it's not a coincidence, because I knew I was going to speak to you today, but in my CLS membership call today, I was pouring into the community and so forth. And I was literally saying, like, for those of you that are feeling like a little lethargic or procrastinating, like, think about the loved ones that you lost. Like, they would do absolutely anything for one more Wednesday afternoon. Like, if not for yourself, like, do it for them. And it just gives you perspective and so forth. I wanted to ask you, because I want the audience to really understand the resilience that you have and so forth. What were some of the injuries that you occurred in Iraq?
So I was caught in a pretty devastating ambush. PKM machine gun is a Russian or Chinese made machine gun. It shoots a 7.62 by 54 millimeter bullet. It's a bullet, you know, probably about the size of my, you know, index finger.
Wow.
And does a lot of damage. So I was struck 8 times between my body armor and body. So stitched me across the body armor. Took 2 rounds in my left elbow. So I had a round that caught me in the upper bicep that blew out the back and shattered my humerus, the upper bone. And then I had a round that caught me on the inside of my forearm that blew out the back and destroyed both my ulna and radius. So they effectively destroyed my elbow. I was shot, like I said, in the body armor. I took rounds off my helmet. I took rounds off my body armor. I had my left night vision tube shot off, rounds off my weapon. And then I caught a round in the face. I had turned, and that's where the damage you see to the skull. I'd actually turned to move back, and the round caught me from behind at an angle. So it traveled right through my face, exited the right side of my nose, exited right here through my nose, and blew everything out, broke my cheekbone, kicked it out to the right, vaporized my orbital floor. So that was gone. Broke all the bones above my eye, shattered the head of my jaw, shattered my jaw to my chin. Eye dropped down into this newfound hole in my face, and obviously did a lot of damage to, you know, to the right side of my face, which took about 4 years and 40 surgeries to put me back together. Originally, with the damage to my arm, the doctor said, you know, hey, you have no use of your left hand. I had nerve damage, and they said we should amputate your arm. So it was a long, long road. But I stayed positive, man. I said, hey, I'm still alive. I'm still driving forward. And, you know, I don't ever allow that to be an excuse. As a matter of fact, I posted on my story today. I did a pretty good workout this morning. And one of the workout was an a vertical hold kettlebell walk. If you've ever done one of these where you balance the kettlebell, well,
Yes.
this arm I can't fully extend. So I got to go a little lighter weight, but I can't fully extend. That makes a really big difference, the ability to lock your arm. But I was telling people, you know what? Everybody out there's got an excuse. I could be like, oh, I can't lock my arm out. You know, like I'm not going to do that. Yeah, fuck that, man. Like go after it, bro. Like figure out how to get it done. You know, I have to use lighter weight. I can't do the same as my right, but I don't allow it to be an excuse, man. That's living. That's what living is about. It's figuring out how to do things. I might not be able to do it the same way that Craig can do it, but guess what? I figured it out.
That's it, brother. And so beautifully said. Number one, you're such a warrior. It really is so impressive. And like you could have excuses or you could have results, right? And for anyone listening to this, like anytime you're saying to yourself, I was going to do something, but I was going to work out, but I was going to put myself out there, but I was going to start a business, but that's the victim mentality. You get it done. You remove the word but and you just make stuff happen, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the thing I do want to tell people is I think sometimes people equate success and accomplishment with um, perfection and 100% completion rate. And that's not true. For all of us, man, there are certain things will come along that knock you off course. Like, oh, you know, for whatever reason, a workout wasn't able to get done yesterday morning. We'll just say in my case, I got a 6 a.m. phone call that disrupted my day. It was the right thing to do. I had to go take care of some stuff. But guess what? I fit it in later. I found other things. You just, you don't make excuses. You figure out where to make it work. And if you get off course, you get back on course the next day. That's the difference between peak performers and everybody else. Peak performers operate 80% of the time or greater, they're getting things done. Most of the rest of the world, it's the exact opposite.
Yes.
20% of the time, they're getting things done. 80% of the time, they're procrastinating and making up excuses why they can't do it.
Yeah. And why this is so deep and exciting to me is because when you do the stuff that you tell yourself that you're going to do, forget about telling other people. When you do something that you say you're going to do to yourself, you begin to build self-trust and that gathers momentum and you become that guy or that leader, right? Who does what they say they're going to do.
Yes. And it builds confidence. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you believe, and that comes full circle back to what we talked about in the beginning. My relentless superpower, I believe in myself. And a lot of it's built on because I get the things done that I need to do to move the needle ahead in my life.
Yeah, that's it. I love this stuff. The only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat. I have to ask you, after the 4 years of recovery and all the stuff that you went through physically, emotionally, mentally, and so forth, how did you segue into doing what you're doing now, which is making a gigantic impact on this world?
You know, man, it's funny. It was never my intention ever. Growing up, never once did I ever say, "Hey, man, someday I want to be a public speaker. Someday I want to write a book." That never was anything that entered the equation. I really thought I was going to do 30 years in the military. I hope someday to command a SEAL team. I hope to serve at our higher tier SEAL team. And I was moving down the path of all of that when obviously I got seriously wounded. And in the process of being wounded, the I wrote the sign on the door that was on my hospital door, and that sign ended up going viral. And should I talk about it a little bit? Just to give
Please,
some
please,
context?
brother. Yes.
Yeah. So let me give you some context, and that'll tee us up to how this whole thing happened, because like I said, it was never my intention to speak or write a book or any of this. So I'm in the hospital, literally less than a week. And guys, this story is pretty deep and layered. And the whole story is told in my first book, The Trident, which became a New York Times bestseller. But the bottom line is I wasn't always a good leader. I actually totally screwed up on my leadership journey. And I was young, I was arrogant. I let my ego get in the way and made some bad calls as a young leader back in 2004, 2005. And all of it culminated with a bad call on a mission in Afghanistan in September of 2005. And it was egregious enough that guys were like, hey, we should get rid of this guy. So really hard moment in my career, facing, teammates who were saying, "Hey, we don't trust this guy." So I won't get into all the details of that story. I will only say it took about 2 years to build back the trust and credibility I needed to lead within the SEAL teams and to build back that trust and credibility with my teammates. So fast forward, now I'm in Iraq after all that shit show that had occurred and that leadership failure. And I'd earned back that trust and respect and had my career back on track and was getting ready to, we were wrapping up that deployment and I was coming back. I was screening to go to that next tier SEAL team. I was in the next level of command, really high leadership marks. And all of a sudden, 1 week before going home, I get all shot up. So now a week after that, I found myself laying in a hospital bed. And you want to talk about being on the X. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, here I am. I just went through the hardest road I've ever walked to come back from major leadership failure and to earn back the trust and, of some of the most hardened warriors on the planet.
Yes.
For them to say, hey, we trust this guy to lead us again after he made mistakes. And suddenly I find myself laying in a hospital bed, all shot up with doctors telling me, hey, we're thinking about amputating your arm, telling me it's going to take years to put you back together. I'm thinking to myself, my face is totally blown out. I hadn't even seen myself yet. I did not see myself. I was afraid to look at myself. I had tubes coming out of every orifice. So I was terrified of what I was going to see. So I thought, I'm going to be forever disfigured. I'm going to lose my arm. I'm going to be permanently disabled. So all these things are rattling around in my head. And about that time, I had some individuals that came into my room and they started talking about what a shame, what a pity. We send these young men and women off to war and they come home broken and battered. And a lot of people hear this story and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that in front of you. But you have to understand a military hospital in the middle of a war is a really hard place to be. You are seeing individuals at their worst, young men and women that are blown apart, burned, missing limbs, traumatic brain injuries. And I was one of them. And these people had obviously seen a lot of that. And they thought I was not awake. I was kind of lightly dozing when they had this conversation. And they basically said, these young men and women are never going to recover. They're just going to be shells of who they are. They're never going to be able to achieve the American dream. And they left.
Who said this?
So, I will stay away from who it is. It's people I know. Understood. And they know who they are. But yeah, I don't like throwing them under the bus because like I said, a military hospital is a tough place to be.
Yeah.
In a time of war. For individuals that have been there, it's very overwhelming. I've seen a lot of civilians who totally break down because you are not used to seeing people at that level of devastation. The battlefield leaves devastating injuries.
Yes.
So anyways, I'm sitting there digesting all this and thinking to myself, is that me? Like, is that who I am? Am I going to be stuck on this X? Am I going to be this victim? Or am I going to get up? And here's the interesting thing. Everything you do in this life tees you up to success. That's what leadership and the path of life is all built on experiences. And let me tell you something, the harder experiences you've gone through, the more you're going to be prepared and better in this life. So if you try and shy away from hard things and you always want to be comfortable, I got bad news, man. It's going to be so much harder for you when the hard times come. But if you've been through hard times, you're going to be able to overcome better when more hard times come. So what had happened is I'd gone through this ridiculously hard journey to build back my reputation that I had busted as a young leader. So as I lay in that hospital, I've been thinking, what do? I was like, no, that's not me. I'm not this victim. I'm not this guy who is not going to overcome this. I'm not this
because
broken
this is a
person.
choice, right, brother? This is
absolutely, and that's the biggest thing. I'm glad you said that, Greg. That is the biggest gift you have as a human being. When bad things happen to you, the greatest gift you have a choice. Nobody forces you to lay there and feel sorry for yourself. Nobody forces you to sit on that X and just cry and not get up. You have a choice. Get up. Because the longer you sit there, the harder it is to do it. And that's what I did. In that moment, I said, that ain't me. I'm driving forward. So when my wife came back into the room, I motioned for her to give me my pen and I wrote out this sign. It said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country that I deeply love. I will make a full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And then I will push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. If you're not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it. The management, and it took on a life of its own, man. It was posted on the door a few days later. A teammate took his trident off his uniform and he tacked it into the door, which I have to tell you was one of the most amazing moments in my life, because several years early, I had failed. I had guys say, you don't deserve to wear that trident. That's how bad it was. And to come full circle where a guy was willing to take his trident off and tack it into the door, said, hey man, like, you're one of us. Like, you set the bar where it should be. And that sign went on to go viral. It was all over. National news networks talked about it. It earned me an invitation to the White House to meet President Bush. It's now been highlighted in documentaries. It's been written about in multiple books. A lot of people want to know where the sign is. I did not feel like it was mine to keep. I had it framed, and President Bush signed it when I met him, and we had it framed, and it hangs in the middle of the Wounded Ward at Walter Reed now for the Wounded Warriors. And I still get letters to this day from, men and women who said, man, I can't thank you. Your sign motivated me to drive forward. So that sign really became kind of a catalyst. And it's why I tell people, man, choose positivity in the face of negativity. You can be the light in the darkness. When you think you are in the darkest moments of your life, man, you have a choice. And when you choose to be the light as opposed to the darkness, it is amazing what will happen. Like, you truly become a lighthouse for others, and things that you never, ever would have thought about will start to occur, just like what happened with the sign. The sign has now gone on to motivate millions and millions of people. And it launched me into a whole lot of things that I never, ever planned on. By the time I got out of the hospital and started recovering, military units were asking me, hey, will you come speak to us about resiliency and military nonprofits? So that's kind of where I started to cut my teeth on speaking. And there was an individual at a nonprofit event who heard me speak, who ran a company, and said, hey, man, would you be willing to come out and speak for my company? And suddenly I was like, oh, wow, like, there's power in this. There's power in this story that I could help other people. And obviously from there, it turned into a book and everything else that has come from it. So you never know when opportunity is going to knock, and you never know. The other thing I like to tell people is, when the worst moments in your life happen and you feel so overwhelmed and you think it is the end, so often those the end moments are actually a new beginning. One chapter of your life may close, but there's a new one that's opening if you're willing to get off the X and drive forward. And that moment, it was the end of my career as a SEAL, but it became the new beginning for my career as a individual who can motivate and inspire others to be better.
Brother, like, I'm emotional right now. The way you tell a story, first of all, is absolutely compelling. But ultimately, I'm a big believer in life happens for us, not to us. And it's never easy to see connecting the dots looking forward, only looking backwards. And I think what happened to you is because you are so strong and resilient and tenacious and relentless, this happened to you so that you can write that note and you can impact and inspire billions. And, protecting this country is obviously the highest honor, but now you're probably impacting even more people, because there's so many people that's been impacted by that now see your note, or they read your books, they see your content, they hear you speak. And that causes a major ripple effect. And, I don't believe in coincidence and so forth. So this is what you were meant to do. And you're doing it with authenticity and credibility and so forth. And I want to acknowledge you're making a monster impact, and you're contributing to this world in a big, big way.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. It's become my new mission.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize that, The mission being a SEAL is done. So now how do I be the best version of myself? And how do I help others? That's my goal. Number one, I want people who listen to this, or people who come hear me speak, or people who read my books or 10 workshops or whatever it is. I want them to walk away and say, hey, that guy made me better. That's it.
And isn't it awesome? Like me and you were talking before we went on air, and I just got back from a big speaking engagement, and that's your thing too. And we were just chatting. You're like, how special it is when someone comes up to you after you speak and there's like, hey, what you said really touched me, or it really helped me change my perspective. You made a difference on my life today. Isn't that the best?
Dude, it is so amazing. And really, the get off the X thing has really become something that has been big, and like it sticks in people's brains. I hear companies that use it over and over again, but the biggest one, I just feel amazing when someone will come up to me, and this happened multiple times. Actually, one of my coaches now, he's a guy that reached out to us in 2020, and he won't mind me talking about this. He's a firefighter who sustained a major life ambush. 8 years ago, his wife unexpectedly passed away. He reported to the house with her to discover she was dead, and his daughter was there and saw all of this transpire. So he became a single dad, raising his daughter and trying to continue to be a firefighter. And he said, until he read my book, he was like, I was dead. I was literally dead inside. And I just went through the motions, and I did the best I could to try and keep it together for my daughter. But he said I wasn't alive. And he said, your book got me off the X. And it's moments like that when people will say, your speech got me off the X, your book got me off the X. That's amazing. You were changing someone's life. I mean, that is an amazing gift, man. That's incredible. Like, I feel amazing to know, like, thank you, God, for allowing me to go through this really hard thing that is making a positive impact on other people out there.
Yeah, and you have a big mission, brother, and you're just getting warmed up with this stuff. And it's so true, like with what you said, like you could be a beacon of hope and inspiration for people to transform and to get off that X, or to become unstuck, and realize that there's more out there for them. Unbelievable.
Yes, for anyone.
Yeah.
So many people buy into that the end narrative, that negative the end narrative. But guys, I'm telling you, man, it may not be the outcome that you think or wish it could be. And oftentimes I meet a lot of people that, whether it's through their own mistakes or whether it's through just how life unfolds, who want back whatever it is that they lost. And sometimes that's just not the case. But you can still have a new beginning, an amazing life, if you're willing to drive forward, in a different direction. And
Yeah,
it takes one step. Takes one step to get off the
buddy.
X.
This is awesome. This is a great conversation. Couple last things that I want to touch upon, because these are things that you speak about, and I think they're awesome, and I think they're really going to hit home for the audience. You speak about, in regards to being a leader, people will follow you if you give them a reason to.
Yeah, man, this is such a core concept, and this really goes back to my leadership failure. And leadership is a tough thing, but I feel like it's even harder in this day and age. And I think we're really struggling for leaders. Kids aren't growing up the way they used to. Our social interaction is not as good as it used to. I mean, we're constantly inside our phones. Kids are growing up in this network generation, and leadership is all about relationships. It's all about setting that example. And those are things that you really can't do online. And when I failed as a young leader, I was more focused on, hey, do as I say and not as I do, and there are unfortunately leaders out there that follow that example. But in this day and age, man, if you truly wanted to be an amazing, effective leader, it is about getting people who follow you because they want to, not because they have to. And understand that distinction. That's critically important. If people follow you because they have to, at some point, that is going to break. Yep. That thread, that system is going to break. But if people follow you because they want to, because they're motivated and inspired and they believe in you, man, organizations can take over the world with that kind of leadership and culture and teamwork. And when I failed as a leader, I remember there was a pivotal moment that occurred where I was talking to a really respected SEAL commander, and I told him I had bought into the lies. Once again, I was on a mental X. I was a micro ambush in my mind. And in my mind, the lies were saying, you're never going to be able to overcome this. Nobody's ever going to follow you again because you've made too many mistakes. You're a failure. You're a fuck up. Nobody's ever going to follow you. And I bought it. And I remember telling him, I said, sir, nobody's ever going to follow me again. Like I've messed up too much. And he said, the most pivotal and most succinct leadership advice I've ever been given. He said, Red, people will follow you if you give them a reason to. He said, go back to Ranger School, crush that course, and then come back to the SEAL teams and give the guys a reason to follow you. And that was really a pivotal moment, an epiphany moment in my life where I really began to dig deep and realize that, ego and arrogance have really allowed me to become a bad leader, that I was more focused on rule number 2. I teach 3 rules of leadership that I talk about all the time. Rule number 1 is lead yourself. And that is the fundamental rule that he was talking about. People will follow you if you give them a reason to. 70% of leadership is rule number 1. How well do you lead yourself? How well do you put structure and discipline in your life? How well do you do all the things that make you good? Working out, personal relationships, personal, physical, and professional, those 3 areas. How well do you put time and effort into them? Number 2, how do you lead others? Do you lead others just by this round hole in the bottom of your face? If that's the way you lead, and maybe you can get away with that if you're super effective at rule number 1, if you're just off the chain at how you lead yourself. But the reality is rule number 2 is, how do we guide? How do we provide the resources? How do we instruct? How do we educate? How do we motivate and inspire? I mean, that's really the essence of rule number 2, leading others. And then rule number 3, guys, comes down to that right there. How do you lead always? In the hardest times, when you just got punched in the face, when the storm is raging, when there's not enough money to keep your company going, how do you dig deep and find it and look at the people around you and say, let's go, follow me. I'm going to figure out a way out of this. That's leading always. And that is the hardest part of leadership, because when things suck, all of us want to turn inward and kind of have a little bit of a pity party, but that's truly the greatest time that you have to step up and lead.
I love you, buddy. And that's why I'm laughing and I'm smiling, because this is just awesome. And it's like, and this just occurred to me based upon hearing you speak, like when there's obstacles or when the shit hits the fan, so to speak, it's actually an opportunity for you to lead by example. And because you can't be a leader with no adversity, right? People need to see you go through some stuff with a strong mindset and be courageous and tenacious and so forth. And so obstacles and stuff like that actually provides you, for anyone out there that's like a leader, whether it be in a company or anything really, adversity is an opportunity for you to shine and to not negotiate with yourself and have pity parties, and to actually perform.
It's kind of neat that you're bringing this up. So this is something that recently we were talking about in my coaching group. I run a coaching group called the Overcome Army. And it is for like-minded individuals who are looking for accountability and relentless positivity. And last year, I encountered my 4th life ambush. I got really sick. It turns out it was a parasite and a blood disorder that attacked my central nervous system, but I was way messed up. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me at first. I lost a whole bunch of weight. I wasn't able to work out. As a matter of fact, because my blood was messed up, there were some original talks about, could this be cancer? I had severe anxiety, severe panic attacks. But I continued to obviously run my coaching group and continue to do all the things I still needed to do to the best of my ability. And it was really impressive. Recently, some of my members of the Overcome Army were like, it was really cool to see you living what you talk about. Like, we knew you were hurting. We knew how bad it was for you, yet you continue to drive forward, and that's leading always. And you reinforce, that's how you build a team that wants to follow you, not has to follow you.
This is awesome. I want to ask you a weird question. In regards to death, right? Like, I'm motivated by death because the last thing that I want and what scares me the most is to get to the end of this human experience and not to have made that mark on the world and contributed and made an impact, so forth. A lot of people are scared of death. Just curious, what is your relationship or opinion on death?
I agree. So I am a Christian, although I struggle at times with my faith. I'm also a very analytical thinker. Um, and faith is a really hard thing for analytical thinkers because faith is a belief in something that you can't touch, taste, see. And I've done a lot of studying on it. I've gotten deep into apologetics and all these things. But at the end of the day, my brain has issues. And if you read my book, I have a miracle moment that occurred. Like I personally believe God reached down and like touched me and said, "Get up and you're going to go home. You're not done yet." Um, but with that,
I
death is
believe
the
it too,
great.
by the way. I believe that happened to you as well.
Dude, nothing else can explain it. I mean, the doctors are like, it's a miracle you survived from the amount of blood loss, the injury, all of it. Um, and you would think that I would just have this relentless, like perfect faith, but I don't. I'm an analytical thinker, man. I question everything. So it's just part of who I am, and I have to accept that. But death, what I tell people is death is the one guarantee in this life. It's the one guarantee. It's the one thing you will never get away from. So you have to live for now. My Monday Muster the other day was about this. It's living in the moment. So many people get stuck either living in the past. They think their best days were behind them. High school was their best days. College was their best days. And now they're just kind of dead men walking, going through life. Or all they do is they're always looking to the future. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. Next week's going to be a better day. I'm going to be big in a year. We got to live for today and shape the future. And I believe that Napoleon said it best. Immortality is the image left behind on the minds of men. So live for today, man, so that because I hope someday that there is a level of immortality for Jason Redman, that my books will live on, that my message will live on, that people will continue to say my legacy, which is he made me better, even when I'm gone.
Yeah, this conversation alone, God willing, will live for centuries. People can come back to it and get nuggets that you're talking about are applicable for anything in life. This is awesome. The last thing I want to hammer home, and again, this is unbelievable. Thank you so much, brother, for all these nuggets. Is one of the things that you talk about is you can lead from anywhere. And based upon this conversation, the story that you told, when you wrote that letter in the first place, that was you leading from, not the most optimal circumstances, right? Because you were still trying to find yourself and see what this looks like as you put yourself back together and so forth. But that was you being a leader in that moment. How can other people kind of convert that and take that same concept?
Yeah, leading from a hospital bed. I mean, the biggest thing, you've got to look at there's so many different parts of that. Number one, let's talk about really hard moments and the facts that most people accept in really hard moments, the lies. I'll call them lies because that's what they are. Number one, when things are really hard, it would have been easy for me to lay in that hospital bed and accept lie number one. And lie number one is there's no hope. And that's a lie. Hope is generated from within. We talked about the power of you, the power of believing in yourself. Hope is merely a belief that there can be a different outcome than the one I'm currently in. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that suddenly you can snap your fingers and my injuries will go away in the case of me. It's just that somewhere out there on the horizon, there is a different outcome and it's going to be a better outcome, and that's what hope is. So number one, you got to have hope. Number two, the second lie is there's nothing I can do. And that's a lie too. There's always something you can do, man. And even if that something is nothing more than I'm just going to be positive. That was one of my goals in the hospital. I said, you know what? There's not a lot I can do. I am in this bed. I'm too weak to get out from the blood loss. I had metal rods sticking out of my body. And I just said, man, I'm going to be relentlessly positive. I'm going to set the example for these other people. That's doing something. And oftentimes leadership is about that. Your attitude will determine the outcome. Rule number three, we lie and say, well, it's all outside of my control. That's a lie too. I mean, there are things you can control. Just oftentimes in the really bad situations, you're focusing so much on things that are far outside of your control. I mean, if you look at the crazy world we're in right now, you can't control COVID. You can't control the political divide. You can't control some of the chaos that's out there. What can you control? You control you. So what do you do in this situation? Well, you keep driving forward. You look for things that you can make an impact on within your realm, within your sphere of influence. That's what makes a difference. And that's how people can continue to drive forward in the hard moments. That's how you lead from a hospital bed. That's exactly what I did.
Bang! That's where we dropped the mic. This is awesome. The best part about this conversation for me, selfishly, is it's just the beginning of the friendship, brother. I have so much respect for you, and this was a magical conversation. Like, you talk about a legacy. Like, anybody can listen to this conversation at any time and get so many nuggets and gems. And it doesn't matter where you're at in life, right? If
That's
you're
right.
if you're ambushed from any different area, like, these tools and this mindset is applicable. We just hit 1 million downloads. We're rock and roll. I know the audience is going to fall in love with you in 2 seconds. What's the best way for them all to support you? And what's something really exciting that you got going on right now?
Yeah, man. So jasonredman.com is my website. So you can find us. From there, you can book me for speaking. You can go on our online store. You can buy copies of my books. Only signed copies, by the way. I don't sell unsigned copies on my website.
That's awesome.
I've got 2 online courses right now: how to build and overcome mindset in 72 hours to peak performance, that incorporate some of the things that I teach and talk about, some of the concepts that I talk about. We recently just completed a workshop, and I'm launching my very first kind of a new road I'm going down, just because I get asked about it a lot. So I'm launching the Overcome and Survive workshop on March 12th. And it's exactly that. These are weird, uncertain times. There are a lot of people that are kind of struggling. I meet a lot of people who are watching crime rise. They're watching a lot of the uncertainty in the world, and they'll say to me, Jay, man, like, you're super trained. Like, what can I do to take care of my family? And things that I do, I take for granted because I learned them in the SEAL teams. I taught marksmanship. I taught survival, evasion, and escape. And these are things that now I do. I just do because I got trained to do it. So I said, man, I should try and teach other people how to have an overcome mindset in a dangerous situation. I should teach people that if something happened to your family, if your wife or son or daughter broke their leg, or God forbid they were shot, what would you do if you couldn't get medical aid immediately? So we're teaching those things. I'm teaching people, how do you build a go bag? A go bag is just a bag that you're able to survive on for at least 24. If not, I would recommend that you have a go bag for a minimum of 72 hours to a week. And then I have another go bag. I actually have 7 go bags, so I can survive for multiple months if I need to blow out of my house. But these are all things that it's all part of the overcome mindset. It's all part of self-leadership. So that will, by the time I'm sure this gets released, that will be live. And we got 20 slots. It'll be here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm doing a very reduced rate because it's the first one that I'm running. I got several teammates of mine that are going to be helping me instruct it. And it's going to be great. So, how to overcome and survive.
And for the audience listening, like, you guys know I'm very intentional with who we collaborate with. That's why the show is done so well. Should you check out what Jason has going on, absolutely no brainer. Every single thing that he says is backed up by experience and credibility. And ultimately, when you align yourself with leaders, and like Jason said earlier in the conversation, it's not someone who speaks a lot. It's someone that's walked the walk. And Jay has certainly done that. So much love and respect for you, brother. How can I personally support you?
Hey, man, please, I love everything that I do, but I really enjoy getting the message out to a large group of people. And oftentimes that happens a lot on a stage. I love being someplace and meeting people. As a matter of fact, the workshop we ran this weekend, one of the members of my Overcome Army actually came to the workshop to see me in person. And she sent me an amazing, awesome email. And she just said, you know what? I've been part of your group for almost 2 years. I've seen so many videos of you, but she said it is not the same as seeing you in person. She's like, you deliver so much energy and passion. She's like, you can feel the electricity in the room, the way you deliver. And I enjoy that. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy talking to people, and I enjoy, being engaged with them at events. So if there are any big events that, you meet people that are like, hey, we're looking for another speaker that can deliver the thunder,
Say no more. Consider it done, brother. So much love for you. And like I said, it's just the beginning of the friendship. Jay, I want you to know you're the definition of resilience, grit, heart, humility, strength, and leadership. You're making the world a better place by helping others overcome victim mindset and reinforcing that there's always a choice. You lead by example and are a role model and beacon of hope for anyone coming up today with big goals and aspirations. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and making your mark on this world. So much respect for you, brother. So much appreciation. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless nuggets today.
Craig, my honor, man. Hey, that's what we got to do as humans. There's a narrative that's out there that we're like so divided, and I think there are some people who are preying on that. But you know what I came to realize is that the individuals who have the ability to lead themselves, the individuals who can shape their future and outcome, that we don't need any of those other people. And there are people out there that are scared of that. They want people to depend on them. And guys like you and me and others that are out there that are teaching people how to be free thinkers, how to seize the day and how to drive forward and find success on their own. That's what this life is about. That's the essence. That's like the pinnacle achievement of being human.
This was awesome, buddy. Straight up. This was an awesome conversation. Yeah. This was awesome, buddy. Let's stay connected, of course. And if there's anything I could do to support, obviously I'll let you know we're going to drop this and we'll hype it up. Let's build a friendship, brother. And I can't wait to share a stage with you one day.
I would love that, man. I would love that.
Yeah.
So
cool. We'll stay connected on Instagram and so forth. And we're probably going to drop this, I would say, probably in like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Is that cool with you? Do you want to be more strategic?
No, 3 weeks fine. I mean, because that's a couple of weeks before our
when is that thing going to be live?
March. Well, it'll be live by the end of this week, next week. So we're going to go ahead and have the ticket live this week, and then the landing page will be live the very beginning of next week. But then it'll go March 12th is when we have the event. That'll be the first one. We're going to be doing more.
Okay, and we'll connect. I'll give you my number on Instagram, and we'll exchange numbers, and we'll stay connected.
Yeah, dude, that would be awesome.
Awesome conversation, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Craig. Thanks, brother.
Take care, Jason.
Yeah, man. Have a great day.
You too, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.